cloud.
Can I reduce the windows of you guys over on the right-hand column? Can I push one of those buttons and hide thumbnail? I guess that's the one to do, huh? Okay, very good. Okay.
Good. Okay. All right. So this is a presentation by Anna Eady, a long-time Martha's Vineyard resident and somebody who I think was one of the first people that I'm aware of that brought these problems that we're creating on to me. And she's got some great ideas that she wants to share. These are her ideas, but I think that we're all very sympathetic and understand what she's trying to accomplish. So she's got this presentation that she's with us, and so far what I've seen of it is absolutely great. Okay, go ahead.
I'm ready to start. I have this little window here saying stop sharing, but I don't dare push it. You are sharing, it's in the way of my text. You probably see it too. You are screen sharing. Do you see that?
We're seeing your screen, it says. We are seeing your screen.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a way to eliminate that sign there?
No, it's all right. Not a problem.
Well, it is a problem for me because I can't read the writing, and you can't read the writing either.
Anna,
Yes, we can.
if you go to the bottom right-hand corner of your Zoom window.
Of my Zoom window.
Yep, and click and hold on that and drag it to the left. You'll make the Zoom.
Okay,
window
I have to get out of the picture window, the video window first in order to do that, right? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Anna, quickly, what do you see now? Do you see your presentation and the images of our video, of us on video?
I don't see any of the icons on the bottom of the screen. All I see is my screen, my picture.
Can you see the writing?
My show. I can see the writing, yes, because that's all part of the.
So can we.
We can see it. We can see it too. So just start. We're all ready.
Yeah, I'll have to guess what the words are underneath. You are sharing, you are screen sharing, and stop share, because that sign doesn't belong there. You know what I mean?
No.
Well, I see.
If you don't mind, I'll just interject again quickly. Anna, when you look at the top left corner of your screen and you see the Apple icon.
No, I don't. All I see is my presentation.
Okay, then at the top left of your keyboard is the escape key, ESC. Click that once.
And show, you mean?
No, click no on your keyboard. The key at the top left corner of your keyboard.
Upper left on my keyboard says end show.
No, this is
No, on the keyboard.
Your computer, on your
I think we should
computer.
go ahead. I think we should go ahead.
What do you want?
Tell Philippe what you want. Tell Philippe.
Okay, Philippe.
Yeah.
The keyboard of the computer, upper left, the top left corner should be the escape key, ES.
Yes. Now it should.
Just touch that, click it once.
I think yes, I did already. It said, for me, it said end show or something like that. So anyway, now I see no, this is not working, guys.
We see the photos. We see the presentation.
You see, and the writing.
And the writing. So I would go ahead, Anna.
Okay. All right. Without showing the full picture, unfortunately.
Yeah. Just start, because we can see it too.
Okay. All right. We'll do it this way. So some of us, you see, no, this is crappy, guys. This is crappy because you're just seeing my working board. You're not seeing what the presentation is.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
We've got a number of options open. One is to continue this way. The other is to do something different. And one option of doing something different is to allow you on another opportunity to do this after doing a dry run.
I've done dry runs forever.
No. A dry run of actually doing this on Zoom with somebody else so that you're able to see what you need to see and give your best to what it is that you have to say, which is important. And that would mean that we would do this another time after you've done a dry run.
Well,
And we
the
would
thing
do
is that
whatever we can do otherwise. It's
Yeah.
up to you.
well, it's either, this way you're going to show all my, the outside of the window is what you're going to see. Like it shows now. Do you see my work in progress?
It's featured, the piece that you're talking about is featured bigger than the other.
We can
Then the-
see everything just
All
fine.
right, all right, let's go ahead with this. Yeah. So some of us remember when our ponds and beaches were always sparkling, glistening, clean, and we could see our feet as we went deeper into the water. The older septic systems caused very little nitrogen pollution because their small leaching area. Do you see my pointer?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
The small leaching area soon developed a slimy waterproof liner, first covering the bottom and then growing up the sides. Thus, the leachate coming from the septic tank going into the leaching pit the leachate goes out in the upper root zone, where it is absorbed by the plants, which happily consume most of that nitrogen. You can see that very little red. N stands for nitrogen, and very little red is going down in the groundwater. Then we go over to this picture here. Then in 1995 came the Title V regulations, enforced with a threat of $500 a day fine for non-compliance. $500 a day fine. DEP did this in spite of knowing from the beginning that it would cause much more nitrogen pollution and that this would cause severe algae infestations in our ponds. And we know these conditions are disgusting. After 27 years of enforcing the Title V regulations, DEP has finally admitted that 70 to 80% of that nitrogen pollution comes from Title V septic systems located within any of our watershed areas. And the DEP is now requiring that this be reduced by 75% within 5 years by retrofitting all Title V septic systems with the best available innovative alternative nitrogen reducing technologies. Okay, so far so good. However, only DEP approved systems are permitted. And that is a very big problem because they are extremely expensive, like 40 to 50,000 plus dollars. And number two, they require big machines to dig big holes, which often requires removal of trees and gardens. I have a friend who's lovely shading woods, and it became just a large flat area of wood chips. She was heartbroken. The one below, yes, it does reduce nitrogen apparently, but it requires 3,400 gallons of soybean oil, which requires 52 acres of good farmland to produce. And it needs refills every few years, costing megabucks each time. So this was the first system to use wood chips to remove nitrogen. Back in 1995, George Way, a highly respected engineer, invited me to test it on his septic system. A pump was lowered, a well-screened pump was lowered into the leaching pit to deliver leachate to the brown filter. That's the brown filter, a barrel filled with aged wood chips. This drained into the green filter, a box filled with wood chips and soil, and planted with weak end of the summer annual flowers. The plants thrived, and the test results amazed us both. unfortunately, I lost 2 rolls of films that took pictures of this. So all I have is this crude drawing. In 1996, Septage, I actually bought Septage, believe it or not, to test this, was percolated through 2 brown filters. I poured it into this drum, went into this drum filled with wood chips, and into the second drum filled with wood chips. And here's the green filter with wood chips and soil and ryegrass. And this removed 71% of the nitrogen, and a month later, 88.3% nitrogen. Look at these test results here. They're all done in certified labs. In 1997, the DEP issued a pilot permit to install the Solviva biocarbon filter systems. A pilot permit was issued to me, okay? And this is a very important thing. I actually did have a pilot permit, very important to note. The first official one was for the Featherstone Arts Center. Again, here's 2 levels of brown filter barrels, and the green filter I don't have a picture of, but it was a green filter bed, and it removed 96% of the nitrogen. This was the Black Dog, and this was permitted pilot installation number 2. At the Black Dog, 2,000 to 4,000 gallons a day. In spite of massive grease problem, it removed 78.8% of the nitrogen on average, with values going up to over 90%. This is, and the green filter garden, what a glorious blessing it was. The annuals took off like rockets and stayed vibrant until frost, followed by rye cover crop growing thick all through the long, cold winter. It was getting warm leachate, so the soil stayed warm all through the winter. But unfortunately, massive unexpected grease invasions suffocated the aerobic organisms, including myriads of redworms, all essential for the proper functioning of this biocarbon filter system. An exchangeable wood chip filled dumpster would have made a good pre-filter grease trap, but DEP would not allow any changes. One example of DEP obstruction. So this, it got these results in spite of the immense grease problem I had to deal with. Then I did this system at home. I put in a flush toilet upstairs to replace the composting toilet because I saw the writing on the wall that people were, no more than 10% of the population will ever prefer to have a compost toilet instead of a flush toilet. I among them. So I built this box, and the toilet drained into this box. This here are uncountable numbers of earthworms. And whatever you flush down there is gone by the end of the day. It's just invisible. Toilet paper, poop, it's gone. It's consumed, and it smells of a clean stable inside of that box. Trudy Cox, who was the head of DEP and the whole environmental department of state, she actually stuck her head in here and said, "My God, this is absolutely astonishing. Why doesn't it smell? And how can it break down so fast?" Anyway, here you see, it's very hard to read, but it's 95 to 99% nitrogen removal is what the system accomplished. Here is showing the different systems. This is the Black Dog here, the Featherstone, the engineer septic system that I did on here is the first one, and the Septage experiment. So when I moved away from the farm in 2018, I had, for the first time in my life, a standard Title V septic system with the property, came with the property. And it is, of course, totally in violation of the Clean Water Act, but it is being enforced by the DEP. So I want to obey the law, and therefore I seek permit to install this IA system. This is the biocarbon filter that I want to do. Cut that line, leave it in case the pump chamber ever overflows, in case the pump fails. Leave the pipe going, so if it overflows, it will just continue going like it did before to the leaching field. And so put a pump chamber in there, put the leachate through barrels of wood chips, which then go into the green filter, and then it will be clean. It will be having less than 5 parts per million of nitrogen, most likely, when it gets to the leaching field. So this is the Suvia biocarbon filter retrofit installed between the Tidal 5 septic tank and the Tidal 5 leaching field. It can reduce nitrogen by 95%. It would cost less than $15,000. In difficult situations with more difficult terrain, it might cost as much as 20, but it would definitely never cost more than 20. So it's 50% less cost. It's less than half the cost of what the DEP approved systems are. And that makes an immense difference, of course, for the economics. So here's my plot plan. Here's an enlargement of it. My septic tank, the pipe leading to the pump chamber, and the leaching field. This is where I want to cut the pipe, put in a pump chamber, put in the brown filter housing, which is about 8 by 3 in size, and the green filter bed, about 24 feet long. And then it can just go into the existing leach field. Of course, it would be much better to put the final output not on top of all that nitrogen, which this bed is saturated with, but instead put it somewhere here down in the woods. So this is what it looks like here. The standard septic tank, the standard pipe, standard leaching field, existing leaching field. And you get my gist. The brown filter, the second pump chamber that pumps it to distribute it evenly in the green filter and then out either on top of the old leaching field. In other words, it remains a complete regular light Tidal 5 septic system, except for this intervening pump chamber. That's the only change. Then we have this interesting thing. The purpose, this is straight from the law books, right? These 3 ones here. And this is a abbreviation, a clarification. The purpose of CMR 14 is to ensure that the groundwaters are protected for their actual and potential use as source of potable water, and that the surface waters are protected for their existing and designated use. In other words, shellfishing, swimming, everything. And down here, the purpose of Title 5, 310 CMR 15, which are the Title 5 regulations, is to provide protection of public health, safety, welfare, and the environment. The Title 5 does not comply with this law. We know that, and everybody needs to understand that. The Board of Health, here's the really important thing. The Board of Health may adopt any rules or regulations containing requirements stricter than those contained in this code. The existence of this Title V code should not limit the power of any health authority with respect to any matter in which this code makes no provision. In other words, this code does not obey the Clean Water Act law. And here's the final thing. According to the following, it seems that it is actually our local boards of health, not the state DEP, that have the final authority and responsibility to protect our health and our water. And here it is straight out of the law book. I'm not going to read that because the sentences are impossible to understand. Not quite impossible, but here they are. Here are the key words. The legally designated health authority of any town may adopt any rules and regulations containing requirements stricter than those contained in this code. In other words, what I say here at the top, it is not the state who has the final authority and responsibility to protect our health and our water. It is our local boards of health. Now, the question is, what are we going to do about this? So that's the end of my presentation. And I realize, of course, that none of us have the authority, except we are lucky to have the Oak Bluffs Board of Health agent with us here. And but we as a community on the Vineyard, what do we want to do about this situation? I already know that we can, if we start a Martha's Vineyard Wastewater Management Authority and do the testing on the island and this close supervision, strict testing, then we could get started with this right away. We could literally do the 10,000 or whatever it is, Title V septic systems that are located in the various watershed areas. We could do that within 5 years. And we would have clean water very quickly, especially if we take the other measures that I also advocate, which is in another presentation, doing the things like skimming off the algae with the proper tools to do that, doing emerald necklaces around all the ponds, pulling up groundwater from near the ponds, and with solar powered pumps that go on whenever the sun is shining, and using that groundwater to irrigate the plants that are growing close to the pond. That way there would be almost no nitrogen coming into the pond because it would be consumed by the plants that are surrounding the pond. And the other thing was bubblers on the bottom, solar powered again, so that whenever the sun is shining, the bubblers are gently putting oxygen down in the dead zones at the bottom of the ponds. That would bring oxygen down. It would make it possible for the decomposing bacteria to do their job, and I'm talking very gentle because we don't want to muddy up the water by stirring it up, So anyway, let's talk about this, and I would like to get back to seeing you all. Let's see if I can do that. So
Well, we can see you.
in the meantime,
we can all
you
see each
guys,
other.
you guys can talk. In the meantime, I'm just going to try to find my way back to Zoom here. So I think I need to have to go back in again, and I started up my Zoom again. Why is it not showing up? Oh my goodness.
You can just leave it on. We can talk. That's all right.
All
That's
right.
Yeah.
Glad to see you guys.
Diana, that was a great presentation. Very clear, very not complicated, easy to understand.
Good.
You did a great job. So are there any questions that people want to raise at this particular point?
Anna, can you get
Yes.
another pilot license from DEP?
Well, I have a pilot license. I mean, it was never revoked.
So it seems to me then you could have this installed in other, on properties in Oak Bluffs. If you have the piloting license, you have a certain number that you're allowed to have. And if
Yes,
they continue, to test them and they continue to be like that, you could get into a provisional stage with the DEP and you could put even more in. I mean, I've read your book. I like a lot of the things that have to do with your system. I think it's great. And, I guess maybe you just have to get the word out more, but if you can get somebody that or somebody to, put in one of these systems, I think it can only help and, just get it out more and have people understand what you're talking about doing.
right. So the first system I want to do is on my own septic system, because my system drains straight into the lagoon. And it's the one that I have a total plan for. And so that would mean the Tisbury Board of Health would acquiesce to that. If that's
Have
the
you
word.
submitted an application to them?
I based on your words now, I have talked about them many, many times in the past, and they've always said we can't do anything because it is not, it hasn't been permitted by DEP. And then I did see recently when I looked at I think it was the Tisbury regulations actually, in which it said that if you have a pilot permit or provisional permit, or then you can install. So I said, wow, I did not know that would apply to a pilot permit. So there's a possibility, but as I told, I have never given them an official request for permission, because I've always been told that they can't do anything to make that happen. And so this might be a window that makes it possible. I sure would like to see you. What was your name for Oak Bluff's health agent?
Garrett Albiston.
Garrett?
Yep.
Garrett, very nice. I sure would
There he is.
like to hear more about. I wish I could see you.
I'm on now. I should be.
Yeah, I know, but is there a way that you can get me on again? Because I have tried to get back into the Zoom window, but I'm not.
Hang on, let me see if I can unshare your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
If I
be.
take away your take
I'm
away your power.
I press the.
There you go.
we
There you
go.
go.
Oh, hi there. It makes all the difference to be able to see faces, Garrett, so nice to meet you. So as I say, I'm running out of energy, seriously. I'm 85, going on 86.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right.
Very impressive.
So, I'm getting very old. A friend of mine told me once you hit 80, it really begins to slide downhill. And I noticed that, and now each year it's getting worse and worse. So I don't have any fighting spirit anymore. I just don't have, other people are going to have to help me. I just can't go in and just have all this negativity happening all the time and just denial. And so it's a matter of, does anybody else care? Does anybody else care that, obviously, Garrett, I hear you, and I'm very grateful that you read my book. Now I have a new website, and in there I go into, a lot of details. So that would be very good to, if you haven't seen that, it would be wonderful. I have 3 sections on the wastewater issue. But as
Anna,
I
what's
said,
the link to, Anna, what's the link to the website? How do you get, what is it called?
Solvivagreen.com. Or just solviva.com will get you there too.
I would think that since it could be entirely up to the towns to decide what to do with this huge expense that's coming down for all of the people that have Title V's, which is
Right.
pretty much the whole island.
Yeah.
That the Board of Health Garrett, are you Board of Health or for Oak Bluffs?
Yes.
So if
Not
the Board of
quite-
Health from the 5 towns or 6 towns could get together and just say, we think this is a great idea, and then really talk up the price difference, that
Yes,
would be the way to go, because it's a huge discrepancy in price.
yes,
Yeah, the systems you're talking about, just the box for the system is about $25,000 plus install costs for
Yes.
these Nitro and Nitrex systems. So it seems like yours is significantly cheaper. It is not necessarily true that everybody who has a Title V has to get one of these IA systems.
in the watershed
It's
areas.
Special
Yeah.
permit, right?
Yeah.
The town will be getting a special permit, and
Yeah.
pretty much everybody in the watersheds will, though. You're correct.
Yeah, and I'm in the watershed, and I sure don't want to continue causing pollution to the lagoon, you know?
How
Uh,
long have your wood chips lasted in these systems?
Well, you know, they just seem to last and last and last. They have some kind of final life, but they're very easy to exchange. You know, the one that was for the flush toilet in my for my house, that we should flush straight into the composting box. The wood chips, I never had to take anything out. I started in 95, and in 2018, I moved away, and then the new people had to remove it. They had to do a legal Title V. So unfortunately, that's going to now pollute their pond. What's now their beautiful, what was the beautiful wild pond is now going to get polluted by that Title V septic system, because the water, groundwater goes right through it, through the pond. And it's, you know, it's 150 feet away, but it will eventually get there, of course. And so anyway, that was like from 18 plus 5, what does that make? 25 years or something like that. And so that one never needed to be exchanged. But I would expect that the wood chips would need to be exchanged every, I don't know, 10 years or something. But as I say, they are contained. It's very easy to exchange because the brown filters are contained in bags, you know, super strong woven plastic bags that can be pulled out and that would become great compost. And the new bags with new chips or new aged chips, always has to be aged chips, would be put in there. So it would be a much less costly procedure than it would be for either one of the other systems that are now approved and are being used, you know. The oil will be extremely expensive to replace. It needs a special injection machine, has to come over with the ferry and taken in from long distance away. And it needs to have 52 acres to grow the soybeans for the oil. I think that this is just a unthinkable sort of system, you know. It might reduce nitrogen here on the vineyard, but what does it do to be using 52 acres every few years? Some say it would last 4 or 5 years, the oil. And I think the proponent for that system is saying more like 10 years, but I got my 4 to 5 years information direct from the oil maker. And he thought that it would not last for 10 years. And that, of course, is a very expensive thing. So yes, sometime, yes, obviously the wood chips would need to be replaced. I don't know how often, but we have to find out, don't we? Because there are so many other big advantages with it. And one of the advantages, of course, besides the economy, is that they are so destructive. They require such big machines, and that they destroy the landscaping that they have to be put into. For me, it would destroy my flagstone terrace because it would have to go across it. It would destroy a bunch of trees and shrubs and gardens in order to get to the back of my house to put in. So it's unthinkable. Okay, any other comments? Yeah.
Good, John.
Anna, thank you very much indeed for your presentation, and for bearing up with all the technical difficulties, but mostly thank you so much for everything you've done all these years, and being persistent.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, you're welcome. I'm wondering what the data are for old style septic tanks. First, how long does it take for biomat to grow up to the point that closer to the surface?
Yeah.
So that any nutrients are coming out and being taken up by vegetation.
Yeah.
And also,
That is, of course,
is there a way to accelerate that, and whether that is actually an alternative if in fact what's coming out net to groundwater is a reasonable tiny percentage.
Yeah. So my thing here is that none of the older septic systems need to be improved because of that biomat liner bringing the leachate up to the root zone. You know, the best it's easy to test, I'm sure, going down below the systems to see, and I'm sure that Garrett would know about that. But this is official figures, you know, that there's no question about the biomat thing. Nothing goes through the biomat once it forms. The big systems, the upgraded Title V systems with the large leaching fields, they are so big that they may never form a biomat liner, because it first starts where the water comes out, and then it just gradually builds up. And if they're away for the winter, for instance, then that biomat liner would disintegrate. It would get consumed during, you know, with bacteria, because it wouldn't be anaerobic anymore down there because there's no more water coming in. So the aerobic bacteria would eat through that liner. So when they can then come back in the summer, they'd have to start all over again with the liner growing. So the large systems, the standard Title V systems will never essentially develop a biomat liner. And so they are all causing nitrogen pollution. But it's easy to understand, I think, that the older systems with the, you know, with the infiltration area of maybe less than 100 square feet, or less than, what would you say, Garrett, for the septic pits, you know, the pre-Title V field.
Right, they're just a pit,
It's
you
a
know, they're
much,
probably 5-6 feet wide and maybe 6 feet deep at the most.
yeah, it's sort of 100 square feet versus more like probably 400 square feet, I would say. You have to count the sides also, right? So, because wherever it can infiltrate, I think it counts the square foot of both the horizontal bottom and the sides going up. So I'm not quite sure how you count that, but obviously it's a much, much bigger leaching surface, probably 4 or 5 times bigger leaching surface for it will never develop. They will never develop biomat liners. And so, of course, what happens, the reason why they enlarge the fields for the, you know, got away from the leaching pits, which is what George Way had, where I tested my first system. The reason why they improved upon that and created much larger leaching surfaces is that those leaching pits would indeed sometimes overflow. And so, you know, the summertime comes, all the showers, all the laundry and all that stuff, and then they would break out on the surface. That, of course, is proof that they have a biomat liner that is no longer able to absorb the water. So those systems, they can easily be unclogged within the root zones so that they will release the water. That would be one thing to try. Or they would be, I mean, obviously they could have the green filter installed also, just like I did it at George Way's place.
Okay, Marnie.
I have, I'm curious about the green filter. What happens in the winter? when it's really cold and everything sort of dies? How does it work in that case?
Well, it's partially into the ground. It has a liner on the bottom all along it. And it has wire netting above it, lying close to the surface so that no animals would dig in it. And in the wintertime, it will be getting spurts of warmish water. The brown filter will never freeze because it's 3 feet wide, partially into the ground, and about 2 feet high. It's an immense volume of mass that will get warmish water coming into it every day, and therefore it would not freeze. If that ever is, I mean, that has not happened for me. So if it is, it's easy to insulate the brown filter. It would also be very easy to insulate the side of the green filter. And so that would be, I would do the insulation to start with, although it probably is not needed. As long as it's supervised, like random supervision, that the Board of Health agents, you'd have a team. You would probably be, Garrett, you would probably be heading the team of the inspectors. Obviously, there will be, if we do 2 systems a day, a year, for 5 years, that becomes 10 systems. That is that's 2,000 systems the first year to inspect. And obviously the first year would just be my system, let it run for whatever length of time. It wouldn't take more than a few months to show that what it's capable of doing. And then other systems can be put in and thoroughly, just totally supervised so that there's no chance of any public health issues. That would be of utmost importance. And it would be a company that would do the installation, not homemakers.
Yeah.
It would be strictly hands off. No homemakers will have anything to do with these systems any more than they have to do with the standard Title V systems.
John, I see your hand up again. And Samantha.
I think Samantha was ahead of me, so I'll defer to her.
Okay, go ahead, Samantha.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to, if you weren't yet aware of it, make you aware of. There are a few IA technologies that use wood chips.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up that we have one in particular. It's called Clean 2. It has provisional use.
Yep.
For IA. And that's it. That's all I was going to chime in. And there's an aeration chamber and then a wood chip chamber that are underground prior to the leaching field. And so what Anna's talking about is not unheard of at this point. I agree with, I'm sure her system works to remove nitrogen. I'm sure of that.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of getting it approved for use, which the Board of Health, I couldn't speak to it, but the Board of Health may have more authority to promulgate some sort of regulation to test and implement perhaps a type of system that's along the lines of what Anna's proposing. But I also wanted to make you aware that there are some efforts otherwise, specifically with wood chip chambers to denitrify, to convert nitrate into nitrogen gas.
And I showed those in my presentation also.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's all I got.
Yeah. And they are extremely expensive. And that's one of the great drawbacks of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the range in cost is openly. I'm not sure for these more mainstream ones that have gone through the process with DEP to get some sort of approval to use at whatever pilot, provisional, approved, equal to conventional or what have you. I don't know about that, but I just wanted to bring it up because it's easily found out.
Thank you, Samantha.
You're welcome.
John,
On with respect to the difference between the situation we're in now and the world before Title V, I don't know who was involved in creating Title V, but it's easy to assume that there were no ecologists involved, and that the scales were very much weighted towards avoidance of any possible public health outcome by traditional septic pits overflowing onto the ground. And I wonder if we were to assess the cost of, based on whatever data there are, if indeed there are any, of how often that happened, and whether indeed there was any outcome of, pathogen adverse consequences to humans from septic pits overflowing versus the costs to us of the fouling of enormous bodies of open water, and whether that might occasion a different approach to this. But the other thing I wanted to mention, which you've mentioned before in this forum with the Water Alliance, that your interpretation that Title V is in violation of the Clean Water Act. And I'm wondering whether that is anything that legal authorities or groups like Conservation Law Foundation or others have actually explored, and to what extent that is understood to be the case. And if so, if it is in violation of the Clean Water Act, then why is it that nothing has been done in the legal forum to address this issue, given the cost?
Yeah, well, Conservation Law Foundation, of course, did sue the boards of health of Cape Cod, Barnstable. I'm not sure which town it was. They sued them, and because of being in violation of the Clean Water Act, and that's why the DEP then came out with they had to admit that, yes, 70 to 80% of the nitrogen pollution was indeed caused by the Title V septic systems in the watershed areas. They admitted that. And they said they took on the recommendation of the Conservation Law Foundation to reduce the nitrogen by 75% within 5 years. So that's why they did that. They were sued. And they have admitted that it is against the Clean Water Act. And so that the big problem that we have now is that the DEP is limiting their permitting to those systems that have been approved by DEP, and for provisional or other level. And that is, in order to, I might as well say again, I've said it many times before, that in order to get that permit, you have to spend probably at least 2 years, have a system at the Otis Air Force Base site, and it will cost at least $100,000. So that's something that I will never do. And going off island again and again and again, And so, yeah, I don't know what I'm saying.
I just follow up quickly. If indeed it is the case that DEP, as you put it, admitted that Title V is responsible for the introduction of unwanted nutrients into public water and so on, then has anyone gone beyond that to assess whether they're in fact responsible for covering the costs of enforcing this regulation? And if so, then why is it that the costs seem to be placed on the towns?
Yeah, the individual owners, the individual people, that's who is being saddled with this immense cost now. which doesn't have to be so advanced. It could be costing less than half of what the approved systems cost. So that's really important for everybody to understand. So yeah, a lawyer, what lawyer could we talk with about this to interpret that? Seems pretty clear to me when the quotes that I showed seems pretty clear to me, but a lawyer needs to weigh in and say, yeah, this is actually what it means. Our local boards of health are the final arbiters, the final protectors of our health. And so far, I have never talked with you, Garrett, about this, but I've talked extensively with both West Tisbury and Tisbury boards of health about it. And they say, well, it's not up to us, it's DEP, we have to follow DEP. So this is what this is what we need to clarify. And, that's what we need. So we need a lawyer. You're absolutely right about that.
Okay, go ahead, Samantha, please. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm just wondering, Anna, have you ever talked to any of the researchers or specialists over at Mass TC, the site in Sandwich?
Oh yeah, I have done
I'm
that.
curious about your because I know George, I think,
Felder.
yes. What is your experience with him?
Well, he was he came to visit my system early on in the game. I think it was soon after I had gotten the results from the system on George Way's septic system, and he'd never heard of using wood chips before. I just had never heard of it. I thought it might be a good idea.
I know he knows now. So
Yeah.
did you talk to him recently at all? Because he's still there.
No. I know what his stance is. He said, just set it up at the test center. It's as simple as that. Well, I don't have the $100,000 and I don't have the time. And there's no reason for it. We can test it just as easily here on the island without any risk to public health. So there's no reason whatsoever to have it tested over there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just a matter of figuring out the legal pathway to do that.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
I
was
mean,
the last time you spoke to Mastech? It might
Oh,
have gotten.
It's worth a try, Anna. Try.
No, never.
No?
No.
No?
I'm never going to do that, guys.
No, I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm just saying it's worth a conversation with them. Worth a conversation at this point.
Well, why would, their business is to do this. That's their business. Would I go to them and say, we don't need your business. We can do it in the Vineyard, They would not take very well to that, I'm sure. You would ask somebody to give
but I
up
think
their
there's a lot more
business,
pressure now.
Their business,
There's a lot more pressure on people to
Pardon me?
get this done.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying there's a lot more pressure on people to get this done now. The financial burden is being
Yes.
spread over so many more households.
Exactly.
And they are changing. They're more open towards urine diversion. They're looking for more different ideas.
Yeah,
And they understand that this is going to cost homeowners a lot of money. So it would be worth talking to them again.
we're talking about them in what way, do you think? I mean, what would be the purpose of talking with them?
To get the testing done for it.
Well, are you serious? When I tell you that it would be impossible, extremely burdensome to do, and then you have to ask why. Why do it there? Why not do it right here?
Well, would the town of
that's what she
Tisbury let
suggested,
you
I
do
think,
it
is that
right
maybe they
now?
can't-
The what? I'm sorry.
Will the town of
maybe-
Tisbury Health Department, will they let you do it now, or are they saying no?
They will do it only if they can be persuaded that it is their responsibility to to put in systems that don't cause nuisance, which would be the economy. It says actually nuisance, and it's, you know, they would have to be persuaded that they have the right to decide. It's not up to the DEP, it's up to the Board of Health.
Yeah, I noticed that Ben Robinson's joined us. Unfortunately, he joined us after your presentation.
Yeah, too bad.
But Ben, he's chairman of the planning board. Are you there, Ben?
Yeah, hi, Richard. I think I've seen
There
on
he
a
is.
presentation
Um,
in your system, so I'm fairly familiar with what you're proposing, but I don't know if you've updated your.
Yes, this is a new presentation, you know, so try to make it a little better each time.
it's really well done, Ben. You have any thoughts on the Board of Health's reaction to this?
Well, I think there's a risk aversion from the Board of Health positions. That's why they lean heavily on the DEP, because if they can lean on the DEP, then they avoid the risk of, the risk of being the decision makers.
Yeah.
I think that's a burden, the risk aversion piece of it.
But it says that they are responsible. It's their duty. That's what I'm interpreting, and that's what we need help in interpreting. And if it says so, then it is their responsibility.
It's tricky.
Anna, I had a question about the one that had problems because of the grease. How did you fix that?
It was not, it was fixed by replacing the filter material and then getting the pump chambers pumped out, getting, you know, a lot of pumping to get rid of the grease before it hit the filter. And that was, of course, extremely expensive. And the DEP would not let me put that pre-filter on. They were extremely against my system. They had never heard of anything like using wood chips and earthworms and plants, and it was completely foreign to them. And the DEP's advisors is the sewage industry. They are the professionals. They are the ones with all the experience. They know how to do it. And they are the ones what brings the biggest perks to the regulators. And that is something there's no, you know, this is just the way it is. And as it is, of course, the case with so much of American industry, it's the lawmakers, it's the regulators and the industry that works together, and whatever gets the highest profit is going to get the most pressure to do it their way. And so here we are 25 years or whatever later since my system was proved to remove 90% of the nitrogen, and nothing has been done about it.
Anna, I just want to say, I applaud you for everything that you've done and everything that you are. You clearly are ahead of your time. You clearly have been, and you still are, by the way. Everybody else is catching up. The paying attention to wastewater treatment, different types of waste treatment. It is, we are finally getting people to care. So
yeah,
I just want to say that, and we just have to be patient, because people have to care for the DEP to care, for things to get done. And you have this very how do I say it, sort of authentic, we can do this on our own, and it's true. It's definitely true. Convincing people to get on your level is not going to be easy, and I'm sure it hasn't been easy. But
it's extremely difficult. Yes.
Yeah. And this is the human condition. We just have to work through that.
A quarter of a century.
I
Seeing
know.
funds just go into just incredible bad health. It's very bad.
I know. I just wanted to say that and let you know that you should be patient with yourself. Good to yourself is what I'm trying to say along the way. So we're trying to get there.
Thank you, Samantha.
You're welcome.
Yes, the progress is slow coming. Does anybody else have anything new they want to, John, there you are. Who's Maggie? Is Maggie, I haven't heard anything from Maggie.
There she is.
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, I'm just listening in. I'm an environmental analyst with DEP.
Oh, good,
Okay,
So I'm just here to listen and learn.
good.
And since
thank you.
Maggie put herself out there, I'm also an environmental analyst with Mass DEP.
well, great. It's good to have you two on board.
So, I chair the Water Resource Committee in Tisbury, and we're developing the CWMP. And it's having two DEP analysts here, you know, is helpful to understand sort of how much does DEP recognize the position that they've put the state in, or at least, you know, the Cape and Islands, and with the way they've structured the regulations over the last 25 years. Is there a recognition at DEP that they have some responsibility in the burden that they've placed on these communities by applying the Title V system?
Yeah, so I can't speak for the whole department, of course, but we are, the department is in the position of hearing from people like Anna Edie, and also hearing about the, you know, economic, financial, there's a lot of factors to balance. And this is the way that the department has moved forward. And the way that people like Maggie and others in our group, we work in wastewater management on the Cape and Islands, and we are doing our best to aid both in providing funding. We are talking to different municipalities. Maggie in particular and others at DEP are working more closely with towns to plan and help with the process of developing a wastewater management plan, CWMPs, and other types of plans to help, you know, move forward with complying with the regulations that have been put in place in 2023. Maggie, if you want to speak more to that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we are aware of the financial burden this has on communities and municipalities, et cetera. I myself work with the communities that are filing for notices of intent or for a watershed permit. So what I do is I provide technical assistance meetings to these towns and their engineers throughout the watershed process. So what I can say about watershed permitting is, you know, we are as flexible as we can be with how towns are addressing their total maximum daily loads for nitrogen. And we'll continue to adjust that flexibility over time. That is kind of what adaptive management is. We know that things will change. Things have changed since the original MEPs came out. And yeah, we're more than willing to be flexible with helping towns meet their goals for their TMDLs.
All right, and two other questions for you two. How much are you paying attention to the materials that go into the EIA systems? They're incredibly relying on plastics for the interior guts of the systems, and for providing surface area for bacteria to act on. There is some early results that show that there are emerging pollutants that come out of the systems because of the reliance on plastics. Is that something that DEP is thinking about? Because I would hate for us to try to fix one problem and then create another problem.
I am unaware of, so the IA systems are mainly done in Boston. We work in Lakeville, so we deal with the Cape and the Islands, and like I said, the IA systems are primarily they're regulated out of Boston. So we can bring that to the attention of the people that would be more aware of what types of materials are being used in those systems.
Certainly.
I know, like I brought up, for example, I'm not sure if you were on, there are some wood chip systems that are used. It's sort of like between the septic tank and the,
Yep, yeah, I know this
yeah, the
system,
leaching.
and that's the one I'm actually speaking of, and, you know,
Okay,
I've
is it
heard
plastic
from,
inside?
I've
or-
heard from the operators of those systems, and, you know, they said, don't spread this around, and sort of spreading it around. But
Okay,
their testing is showing a higher level going out of PFAS than going in. And
okay,
it's obvious when you look in what the guts of their system are, especially the baffled area where they're trying to create surface area for the bacteria to act on, which is all plastic. There are these little plastic pieces that are molded. And they say, look, this is the most efficient and cheapest option that we have, right? You know, you could use a ceramic material, you could use something else, but they're just going to the cheapest and easiest option.
mhm. Yeah,
That-
we're all.
That's
yeah,
a concern.
Yeah, no, that's certainly a concern. I think that our PFAS program, which is also in Boston with the IA program, I think that they are looking into the implications of PFAS with wastewater. So I think that's definitely something that is, you know, on the mind of DEP.
And
Yeah.
we can, you know, bring your comments back to the head of our wastewater group and who is in constant communication with Boston. So that's the purpose of us, you know, being here to try to, you know, listen in and try to figure out what the concerns are. This is it's going to be a process that is full of growing pains for everybody. Full of trying to figure this out, because we've got PFAS that got, you know, sort of just exploded, and then we've known about the nitrogen issue, and we've been trying to address things the best that we can. And from my perspective, the DEP is a mechanism that reacts to, you know, what our scientists say, what the public says, what the public wants, and we're doing our best. I can't speak to what has been done in the past. When the 95 regulations.
Yeah,
were
I'm,
implemented.
you know, I'm always skeptical.
Well, please, your feedback is very important.
PFAS, you know, it's sort of, oh, you know, we like to say, oh, we're just understanding this. But in the 1960s, the scientists that created PFAS highlighted the concerns with that product.
When I say that, I mean it's become mainstream.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I know, and, you know, but EPA in 2000 also warned of the, you know, and they still haven't given out any official guidance, you know, and so there's always this level of like, yes, we know the concerns, but it's too big a problem for us to deal with, so we brush it away. The other thing that I've been thinking about is how much, you know, and this really gets to adaptive management, how much is sea level rise going to affect the flushing of our coastal water bodies? Is there sort of something that we should understand around, you know, a potentially beneficial side effect of sea level rise that could increase the flushing of coastal water bodies? And should we be considering that as we think about what's going to be in 20, 30 years, part of our nitrogen reduction techniques, utilizing sort of that natural process that is now occurring? From, you know, obviously we caused this natural process, but it's going to be a natural process.
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
think, yeah, that's important to think about climate change when it comes to, you know, how things will change over time. Basically, when we're doing adaptive management, we refer to that as like a land use update. So not just, you know, development within the town land use, but will there even be a barrier beach there anymore, or, you know, different things of that nature. I don't know necessarily that we have like a guideline you can follow for addressing that, but as long as you know, you're able to speak to it and show that whatever you are trying to implement would be effective, I think that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, more it's a necessary, you need to model
Yeah.
how sea level rise is going to affect your coastal areas. And then, how long are we, is it gonna take, so, and my concern is that we're gonna spend a lot of money trying to fix a nitrogen problem that nature might fix for us if we just wait a little longer.
Okay.
If a coastal pond that's impaired becomes part of the ocean, and you spend all this money trying to fix that and adding sewering and everything else, and it, becomes, an unimpaired water body because it connects to a larger water body, it's just something that we have to keep in mind, so that we don't spend a ton of money unnecessarily up front. And the other question for, DEP, and this gets to where Anna is like, why can't DEP subsidize or underwrite people that are trying to do or find more economical nature-based solutions? Why isn't there a program within DEP that is helping people like Anna not have to swim so hard upstream to get anything done? I mean, I think there just needs to be a little more availability to explore options, and not make it so burdensome, because I am aware of how burdensome the process is, even for the clean tube folks. Whether you think their technology is good or bad, they've had to spend a ton of money just to get to a pilot provisional standpoint and showing, decent results. And it seems like there's a lot of burden placed on anybody that's trying to innovate. And if we're going to solve the problem, we have to kind of unshackle the innovation.
Certainly. Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, I think that as far as that goes, I think that's why we do our best to push the use of conventional and alternative together, working together, because right now we can't fully rely on holistic or alternative methods just yet. So
We can.
But we can't rely on conventional either, right? I mean, that's the
No, we
problem
can't.
we're facing,
sure.
right?
These are the growing pains that we're going through. We're trying to figure out what works. That's why we have this adaptive management framework. We have municipalities coming in and saying we want to use this alternative technology, and there are processes that are becoming more open to approaches like Anna's. We're working through creating those pathways.
Yeah.
These regulations were just promulgated last year.
Yeah, and just to put it into a little bit more perspective, our watershed work group, or just our Cape and Islands wastewater team, was 2 people just until last year. Sam and I have just come on in 2024. We both have 2023. Yeah. So we agree there has to, there should be mechanisms in place where these kinds of technologies are. I mean, Anna's work is really impressive. And, from the perspective of myself and Samantha, we love to see that kind of work. In an ideal world, right, we would soar everything and there wouldn't be any issues. But we know.
No. That's the big mistake. That is the attitude of DEP. In the ideal world, it would all be sewered. That is a tremendous mistake. Tremendous mistake.
Right. Oh, no, and Anna, let me just clarify. My background's in biology. I was a marine biologist before this. I am completely aware of where you're coming from. Again, I'm just speaking for DEP's mindset.
I know, and they are wrong.
Right.
Their emphasis is on central sewering. Essentially, they think of anything that's not central sewering is bad and temporary.
We're trying to change that mindset for sure. And I think having a larger team, having people from different backgrounds, these are all conversations that DEP is having. And I think there is an awareness that, SOAR is not the only option. We definitely know that.
Yeah. So the big, Gail.
I thank you, Anna, for a really clear, good presentation that we can understand. But I would like to know what kind of pressure we can put as citizens of this island on the boards of health, because it's been very clearly stated today and shown that it's their responsibility beyond the DEP to enable this to happen on the island. So enough talk, it seemed, and Garrett has pointed out that she could, with the right that you have now, the pilot, I'm not sure of the wording, but that you could do this with Oak Bluffs, right? That within Oak Bluffs. And you need to do it in Vineyard Haven because that's where you live. But what if you did do it in Oak Bluffs, one at a time gets proven to, you know, show how well it works? I mean, that would also show people on the island.
Can I
So
just chime in? It's not up to Garrett, it's up to the Board of Health.
Yeah.
It sounds like Garrett is very supportive and
encouraged.
he would encourage the elected Board of Health.
Yeah.
But just remember,
It seems to me that we need to put some kind of awareness and pressure. It seems to me, where the decision-making is coming in on the island, at least, the boards of health. Or everybody seems to bypass that. And so what can we do to enable that to happen so that these programs that are so good can begin to happen?
Well,
John,
I
you
mean,
wanted to say
anything else, you have to go to the boards of health. You have to get on their agendas and you have to convince them. And if you can't convince them, then you have to find people that can run for those positions that you can convince.
Well, and who,
It's basically like
Oh.
any other political pressure.
Ben, whom would they listen
He's
to
Richard Toole.
in terms of beyond him?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the boards of health will listen
Yeah.
to their voters.
Sorry,
Like-
there's some, is that John talking on the phone, maybe?
Probably
Somebody's-
next week.
Yeah, sorry, Richard's talking. He's muted. You know, you elected people respond to the people that put them in office.
That's why I'm
And-
saying the people of the island, you know,
Yeah.
we put pressure on them
Yeah,
to listen.
Yeah.
To try it.
And of course, if the lawyer says that, yeah, it is actually up to the boards of health, they have the final responsibility, then they have to take on that responsibility if the law says so. And then
Say,
we do.
yeah. What can we,
you have to first be able to convince them, and then you have to get over their risk aversion for being the sole voice that says this, right? It's easy when DEP gives them guidance and they follow DEP's guidance. It's a lot harder when they go out on their own. And so you know, that's a tougher thing to convince somebody to take on that risk as the sole decision maker.
And then we have to see what is that risk? What is the risk, really, you know?
Right, Ben is correct. They're trying to be risk adverse.
Well, of course, we have to always look at it from the perspective also of understanding that it's been 27 years that the DEP has failed to protect us. They have their programs, their attitude, their regulations is what has destroyed our ponds. I mean, that's what we have to honestly look
Even
at.
at one point in time, DEP was trying to be risk adverse, and it takes a long time for everyone to look at things from all sides, and when it's just
So
tough
in the meantime,
navigating.
they have just sacrificed our ponds. DEP is responsible for destroying our ponds.
Okay,
There's no
Anna,
question about that.
I think you've made your point, and I think both of these ladies who are listening very patiently and offering some suggestions, I think they have a big job ahead of them, but I'm sure glad that they've stepped into their roles, and it's what DEP is going to need. John, you had your hand up way back when.
Yes. I have to say it's wonderful that the entity of DEP exists, that you, Samantha, and you, Maggie, are within. And I applaud you for what I understand of your efforts, which is based only on what you've just said. I think that it might be interesting to consider in the future for a meeting like this to be aware of your participation from the beginning. That would probably help inform the speaker and allow her or him to be more effective and efficient in what they say and how they say it. It might also have similar useful effect on others participating in the meeting. So at the risk of being boring, I'll just confess my inadequacy in understanding how it is that, as I understand it, DEP is acknowledging their culpability and responsibility for the adverse consequences that are a result of Title V. I mean, I don't know if anybody has a model for what the total nutrient loading would have been if indeed Title V had never existed and the status quo pre-Title V had continued. But if they are responsible, which I would say is perhaps analogous to, for the Cape and Islands, given the geomorphology being analogous to forcing diabetics to drink sugar water. In the latter case, the biomedical entities involved in that kind of action would no doubt face financial consequences. And I'm just wondering, why is it still that DEP isn't shouldering all or at least most of the burden of the consequences of this? Secondly, I want to point out that the technology that we are very lucky to have and employ in having this Zoom meeting and in other aspects of our life is a result of a central entity realizing that it's in everybody's interest to facilitate the research that was required to come up with this. And I'm talking about the Department of Defense funded primary research that has led to all of these innovations. It seems equally plausible for DEP to, at the very least, come up with a program that provides sufficient funds so that in the case of, for example, Anna, that $100,000 isn't an obstacle. And then if there are other obstacles, you could sort that out. But, given the costs incurred, and with respect, by the way, to Ben's comment, I happen to have been for the last 60 some years on a kettle pond, and we're not going to benefit, given the altitude of the surface of that pond, from sea level rise, though I understand fully your good point about the coastal ponds and sort of quasi-estuaries. So I'm still interested in running to earth this question of responsibility, and obviously I'm not laying that on Maggie and Samantha, but it's something that should be worked out because it could result in catalyzing more support where it's so desperately needed. Thank you again, Anna.
Thank you. The one thing I want to point out about that is if DEP pays for the repairs of our ponds, namely in the form of letting us put in non-polluting septic systems, then it'll be the taxpayers, of course, which means that we are paying for that ourselves. They don't have any money of their own. It's all taxpayers' money, which is our money. So I'm afraid that route of asking them to redeem us or for them to compensate us for the destruction that they have caused, it's just not going to work. We have to do that.
Can we be clear that the origin of all of this is the lack of awareness of the people themselves, in that people have, okay, I'm gonna slow down. If we really want to get to the core of it, it's the constituents' money, it's the constituents, byproducts, it's the constituents' methods of dealing with things prior. Mass DP has done its best to find the approaches that we have been told by the experts that will work. And if it hasn't worked, then it hasn't worked. And we're just trying to do our best based on the experts, once again, to address, post CLF lawsuit, to address the issues, address the pollution. We're a mechanism. We're doing our best. And I don't have all the answers. I really don't. I am in the Lakeville office. We will take your comments. We will bring them back to our boss, who will talk to his boss, and we'll, but you definitely speak to DEP, and if you can.
Yeah, we're happy to kind of bridge that communication gap. We don't want to be the bad guys, and we want to be approachable for towns, for municipalities, for the general public.
And Anna, I'm certified in permaculture design. I'm sure you know what permaculture is. I would assume you do based on your holistic approach. So I completely agree with the decentralized approach to the more natural. I'm interested in wetland constructing wetland systems to deal with, wastewater, natural approaches. I'm 100% on board with that. And this is just a process that we all have to go through together. I understand it's okay if you want, if we're the enemy
Yeah,
here, that's
yeah,
fine.
if you have to
But-
point fingers at us,
But
that's
we're here.
fine.
Yeah,
Right?
I would, yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, the fact that you guys are here, I think it says a lot about you two, differently than DEP. You're not obviously here representing more yourselves than DEP at this point.
And I just for what it's worth, given what you said, I want to make it absolutely clear, I don't see DEP as the enemy either. Certainly the people that were involved X years ago aren't there. The people that chose to include particular experts from a particular realm of content or backgrounds and competence is a decision that no doubt would not be made today because everything has changed. And I take Anna's point about the funds coming inevitably from us, but I mean, the same is said with all funds, when any state is very happy because it gets disaster funding from FEMA, from the federal government, that's taxpayer money too. And so I think that it is the case that if DEP, for example, had funds that were available to make it easier for IA systems to get going and to get a test, or even, and also to consider doing it in context other than on the Cape. I can't remember all of Anna's points as to why it's suboptimal for her to have it not on the Vineyard. That is a trivial cost compared to the overall cost, and it would create enormous opportunities for things to be improved in the same way that the federal government is, for a whole array of reasons, backing green energy and that sort of thing. So I'm very grateful that the Water Alliance exists and that that it is doing exactly this sort of thing, providing a forum where we can all engage on this and push things ahead. So thanks all of you.
Yes, thank you.
And I would add, Richard, DEP is the biggest operator here, right? They're the state Department of Environmental Protection. They oversee wastewater across the Commonwealth. They have the most leverage to enact change, but they're also a big operation and a big entity, and so change becomes really slow and hard. And so my challenge to DEP is to overcome that obstacle within themselves and move with more pace to finding an economic solution, and it's solutions, I should say, because there is going to be a time and a place for sewering, and there's a time and a place for on-site systems. But none of this stuff is that complicated. Anna's been working on this for 25 years, but you've been just tweaking something that you've developed actually longer than 25 years. I take that back. It's much longer than 25 years. But you've just been improving a basic idea. So, I mean, I'm a little perturbed that sort of we're at the point where like, oh, we don't really know how to figure this out. And it's like, well, we actually do. The science is not that complicated, actually. Why is it so hard to arrive at a solution that isn't going to create another problem like a PFAS pollution out of every septic system that we upgrade? It's frustrating that the state doesn't seem to be as proactively chasing the solutions as the towns would like them to be. So I mean, that's my challenge to DEP is, get over the obstacle of a big, department shifting its thinking and aid the towns and figuring this out.
Yeah, there are a lot of
Here you go.
there are a lot of variables at play here. You all seem very enlightened and open to other perspectives. And by the way, Ben, I am going to take your comments about the plastics used in IA systems and also the point about high-level sea rise and how these efforts might just be a temporary solution in your opinion, and really try to dive into, try to learn more about that.
I mean, John's point is well taken. Not all our impaired water bodies are going to be affected by sea level rise. So,
Right.
as well.
Well, this has been a great conversation, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate your patience on this. I think the number one thing is to not be angry about DEP. Disappointed, yes, but if we express anger and threaten them with legal, you know, they're gonna be very careful about cooperating because they don't want to have to admit that, oops, we failed and we have to pay who knows how many billions of dollars. That's not how it's going to be solved. So we have to be more positive. And Samantha and Maggie, I'm so glad that you came and you're being very patient, you're listening, and I hope that, and I know you will. Oh, for crying out loud! I keep getting these phone calls. Oh, stop it! Wait a minute. Hold on. Hello.
I just will say, I take Richard's point. I'm not angry with DEP, nor am I suggesting that there be litigation. There's a quote attributed to Voltaire. My life was ruined, but twice. First, when I won a lawsuit. First, when I lost a lawsuit. Second, when I won a lawsuit. So I think the only thing is if, it's like if you have a dispute with your neighbor, you don't have to take them to court or go in front of the town and have them fined or something. You can talk it through. And if they acknowledge they're responsible because their tree fell on your car or something, then you can work something out. And partly I'm just interested in the bottom line of what's the case, but also whether any awareness of responsibility could incentivize improving things. And that is what we all want to do, is make things better as fast as possible and in the right way.
Yeah, I think Mass DEP is fully aware of its responsibility. Absolutely. Managing all of the different variables and perspectives in people. And we've even had, at least in our office in Lakeville, which is responsible for the Cape and Islands, are experiencing people retiring, new people coming in, and it's a big shift. So yes, lots of different things going on. And we do acknowledge that we are responsible to protect the public health and environment for sure.
So Ben, I wanted to say that the talking about global warming and rising sea level, that is such a long perspective, In the meantime, our ponds have to be fixed.
Well, I mean, I bring it up because, what we're developing a CWMP that's supposed to be a 20-year plan, right? And so we're imagining removing nitrogen out to 20 years. There may be ways to open up the ponds, and all of this I'm saying needs to be modeled. It needs to be understood from a coastal ecology perspective, and a resource perspective. But there may be a side benefit to sea level rise that helps us alleviate some of the nitrogen. I'm not saying, forget about all the other technologies and things that we need to do, because the sea levels are going to rise up and the pond's going to suddenly be part of the ocean. But we do need to take a long perspective in that at some point that might be a side benefit to sea level rise, having sea level rise flush the systems more and take that into account. And so that's the only comment I make on that.
And I just want to say that DEP's got a lot to think about when it comes not just ponds and nitrogen, but climate change and how we're going to adapt to that. I know part of the problem in Oak Bluffs and other towns has been the permitting process to get something opened. I mean, it's crazy and it costs a lot of money. And we've had a pond here in Oak Bluffs that, they still haven't approved a larger opening, which would help flush that pond. But that's a whole nother topic. And I think we need to wrap this up. It's gone on for a long time, and you all been very patient. So is there anything new? Sherry, do you want to chime in?
I just also want to mention that in addition to our ponds, there's our groundwater that, the nitrogen, the pollutants, the PFAS, they're all going into our groundwater too. And so that's an issue.
Yeah.
It's not just for the ponds, but I don't want to continue on too long. But there is the Climate Action Fair this weekend. It is Sunday from 12 until 4. I will be at the tables next to Mass Tech. So if you'd like to learn more about all of the IA systems and the work that they're doing, they will be there too. So it'll be a great day. There's gonna be a lot of people, a lot of groups. Maggie, Samantha, I wish you guys could come. It'd be really great to talk to you, but I will see you. And thank you so much for all your comments. And we really value it.
So can I just do a final comment here? That is that, as I explained to you, my energy is fast waning. And so I don't have any push left in me. And it's up to you guys. If you would rather continue with the $40,000 to $50,000 to $60,000 systems, it's up to you. I'm not going to be here very much longer. And I'm not going to continue pushing for it because it's just too incredibly depressing. I can't get it together to do that anymore. I can certainly make a proposal, you know, a more fleshed out proposal than I have made before to the Board of Health, but I'm not going to take it. It's so deeply depressing that I feel like that is what's aging me more than anything. It's the stress on my brain and not having any other people pushing for it. So if any of you guys on the island here are interested in how we can save umpteen hundreds of millions of dollars, because we're talking about 10,000 systems approximately, and that's going to be $400 million if they go with the systems that are now approved. And it could be less than half of that if we do what more like systems that I'm talking about. Who knows what other systems are out there people have worked out that they have not even bothered to enter into the program with DEP, you know, because it's so incredibly discouraging. So I'm just saying that it's up to you guys. It all depends on how, I don't know how to proceed from here. I don't know how to get the public interested enough in saving money, which is the biggest issue at this point. So I don't know what to do next.
Well, I think you've done a lot, and I think you've inspired a lot of people. And having these two people here from DEP, I think, has really been, you really have, I mean, I think you made it clear that we've got to make some changes. So
Right,
unless anybody else wants to
has to
chime in.
be, we have to go beyond DEP because it has proven for 27 years that it is incompetent in dealing with this
I
issue.
know, but you need to be careful. I think the boards of health are going to be on board too. I think Garrett's going to spread the word.
That is the issue. That is the key.
Yep, spread the word. All right.
And the lawyer, who knows of a lawyer? I mean, somebody who is a lawyer can deal with this.
We'd rather not get lawyers involved. One more thing, John, then we got to call.
Isn't there, am I right, Sherry, in thinking that there's an event tomorrow at the NVC that's relevant to all of this?
There is, Mass Tech is actually going to come and give us a talk then. Waste No Water is what they're talking on. And they're going to talk about different, I will send to Water Alliance the announcement for that tomorrow and for the Climate Action Fair.
Okay.
It's also available on Zoom.
And there's something on Saturday too.
Yeah, that's what, I think, oh, I'm sorry. That's Saturday. It's Saturday and then Sunday. Yeah,
Right,
I'm sorry, John.
Saturday.
Thanks.
I'm rushing my week a little.
And then if I may, Anna, it seems to me that it's entirely understandable and unfortunate that you are in this situation, that we all are, and that it's affected you and how you feel. But I think that I'm hoping that you'll go away from this presentation, and which is thanks to you and the participation of DEP and the town people, that feeling that you've made progress, that you're further along than you were before we started this meeting at 12:15 today. And that if we continue to do this and continue to interact, given that there are different people and different attitudes in place, that we're going to move this ahead. But you have to pace yourself and not let yourself get whittled away.
And I want to make sure you understand that I'm not going to have a test done at Mass Tech.
Yep, no, I think we got that.
That
We'll chip in $20,000. Let's see how much for that. No,
it's not just a matter of the $100,000. It's the many trips, the ferry reservations. I would have to spend the night there sometimes, I'm sure. You know, it's like, I'm not going to do that.
Yep, I get it. All right, well, I think we should call it a day. I hope you all can go to the fair on Sunday. It's going to be very, very interesting. Thank you all very much for all your patience, especially when we had to get this meeting started. But Anna, you did a good job. That was a great presentation, and you're going to make that available to all of us, I hope, to all the boards of health.
Yeah, in whatever way.
Okay. I'm
I
sure
don't-
If you
Sharon
can send me your presentation, I can send it out to Water Alliance, or if you want me to stop by sometime, we can figure out how to send it to me.
Yeah, she can help you do that. That would be great.
I'll
That would be-
try to
I
figure
drive
it
right
out.
by our house all the time, so
There you go. That'd be great.
I'll
right,
stop in
thank-
for tea.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. We're going to get this solved. I know we are. Thanks, Ben. See y'all
Thank you,
later.
buddy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
You.